What would you do if the most powerful man in the world wanted you dead? What if your silence could save your life, but your voice could save your people? What if everything you had ever suffered, every door closed, every loss endured, every night you cried alone, was not random? What if it was preparation? And what if the fate of an entire nation rested on whether one woman, a woman with no army, no political power, no public voice, was willing to walk through a single door? This is not a fairy tale. This is not a myth. This is one of the most dangerous, most political, most breathtaking stories in all of Scripture, and it contains a secret so staggering that most people miss it entirely. Here is what will shake you to the core. God's name does not appear once in the entire Book of Esther. Not once. Not a single mention. And yet his fingerprints are on every single scene. Stay with us, because by the end of this story, you will never look at your own life the same way again. This is Esther, and she was born for this moment. The Persian Empire, 5th century before Christ. Stretch your imagination across a kingdom so vast it swallowed 127 provinces, from India to Ethiopia, from the Aegean coast to the banks of the Nile. At the center of this colossal machine of power sat the capital city of Susa, a city of marble columns and golden fire, where wealth moved like water and the word of one man meant life or death for millions. That man was King Ahasuerus, known in history as Xerxes the Great. And somewhere in the shadow of that glittering, dangerous city, in a modest house on a narrow street, lived a young Jewish woman named Hadassah. She was an orphan. Her father was dead. Her mother was dead. She had no homeland. The Jewish people had been exiled from Israel generations before. She had no throne, no title, no name that the empire would ever recognize. What she had was her cousin Mordecai, a faithful, watchful man who had taken her in as his own daughter when her parents died. And she had something else, something that couldn't be bought or built or borrowed. She had beauty, 12 months of preparation, 12 months of beauty treatments, oil of myrrh for 6 months, spices and perfumes for 6 more. Each woman would have one night with the king, one chance, and in the morning, she would go to the second harem and wait. Unless the king called for her by name, she would spend the rest of her life in that palace, seen by no one, forgotten by all. It was a gilded cage, and into this cage came Esther. She had been brought to the palace like all the others. Mordecai had told her to reveal nothing about her people or her family. She was Jewish in a world that often did not welcome Jews. She kept her silence. She watched. She listened. And something remarkable happened. Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Esther chapter 2, verse 15. Haggai, the guardian of the women, was moved by her, not just her beauty, but something deeper. He gave her extra cosmetics, better food, 7 maids chosen from the palace. He moved her to the best place in the harem. It was not the last time God would move someone's heart on Esther's behalf, without explanation, without announcement, without a single word spoken in prayer that we are ever told about. When her turn came to go to the king, she asked for nothing, only what Haggai suggested. She did not grasp or scheme or perform. She simply walked through the door set before her. And the king loved Esther more than all the other women. She won grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Esther chapter 2, verse 17. The orphan girl, the exiled Jew, the woman with no country and no name in the halls of power. She was queen. She was hidden. She was faithful. She was crowned. But this is not a love story. Not yet. Not far from the palace gates, Mordecai sat, watchful as always. And one day, he overheard a plot. 2 of the king's doorkeepers, Bigthan and Teresh, were conspiring to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai told Esther. Esther told the king, in Mordecai's name. The plot was investigated, found to be true. The 2 men were hanged on a gallows, and the matter was recorded in the book of the Chronicles in the presence of the king. Written down, filed away, forgotten, for now, because in the courts of King Ahasuerus, a new man had risen to power, a man named Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite. The king had elevated him above all the other nobles. Every servant at the king's gate was commanded to bow down before Haman, to pay him honor. But Mordecai would not bow. Day after day, his colleagues urged him, "Why do you defy the king's command?" Mordecai had told them he was Jewish, and a Jewish man, a descendant of God's covenant people, would bow only before God. When Haman saw this, something twisted inside him. Not just irritation, not just offense, something ancient and malevolent. He despised it. And when he learned that Mordecai was a Jew, he decided that killing Mordecai alone was not enough. Haman would destroy every Jewish person in the entire Persian Empire. He cast lots, called Purim, to choose the perfect day. The lots fell on the 12th month, the month of Adar. He had nearly a year to execute his plan. Then Haman went to the king. "There is a certain people dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom whose customs are different from those of all other people and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them." Esther chapter 3, verse 8. He offered to pay 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury to fund the massacre. The king handed Haman his signet ring. "Do with the people as you please." A decree was sealed and sent by couriers to every corner of the empire. On the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews, young and old, women and children, were to be killed and their property seized. The city of Susa was thrown into confusion, and Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes. If this story moves you, like, share, and subscribe to The Sacred Mind and walk with us through the greatest stories ever told. Word reached Esther in the palace. Her maidens and eunuchs came to her, pale-faced, trembling. "Mordecai is at the gate. He is in sackcloth. He is weeping." She sent him clothes to replace the sackcloth. He would not accept them. She sent Hathach, one of her attendants, to find out what was happening. And Mordecai told him everything: the decree, the silver, the date, the death warrant for an entire people. He gave Hathach a copy of the edict and told him to show it to Esther, and to urge her to go to the king, to beg for her people's lives. The message came back to Mordecai like a stone wall. "All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law: to be put to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter so that he may live. But as for me, I have not been called to come in to the king these 30 days. Esther chapter 4, verse 11. Think about what she is saying. She is not a coward. She is giving a legal reality. The inner court of the king was not a meeting room. It was a throne room where the difference between life and death was the whim of one man. No invitation meant death, even for the queen, and she had not been summoned in 30 days. She did not know where she stood. Mordecai's reply crossed back to her like a sword. "Do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish." And then, the words that have echoed through 2,500 years of human history. "And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther chapter 4, verse 14. Do you feel the weight of that question? Who knows? Not God has appointed you. Not thus saith the Lord. Just who knows? Because this is Esther. God's name is never spoken, but his hand is unmistakable. Would you risk everything for the people who need you? Would you step into the most dangerous room in the world because you might, just might, be there for a reason? Esther went quiet, and then she wrote back, "Go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will also fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." Esther chapter 4, verse 16. If I perish, I perish. 5 words. 5 words that broke open the story. She was afraid. She was resolved. She was chosen. 3 days. 3 days of fasting. 3 days of prayer, though even the prayer is not named. 3 days of a young queen preparing herself to walk toward the most powerful man in the world uninvited. dressed in her royal robes, heart hammering beneath the gold. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes. She walked through the outer court of the palace. She stood at the entrance of the inner court. The king was on his throne, facing the entrance. The room must have felt like the edge of the world. And King Ahasuerus looked up and saw Queen Esther standing there. He held out the golden scepter. She was not dead. She crossed the room and touched the tip of the scepter. "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request?" "It shall be given you, even to the half of my kingdom." And here is where Esther does something extraordinary. She does not blurt out her request. She does not fall to her knees and beg. She is wise. She is patient. She has been fasting and praying for 3 days, and she has a plan. "If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a feast that I have prepared for the king." Esther chapter 5, verse 4. A banquet. Haman was summoned. He came to Esther's feast, delighted, glowing with self-importance. And at the feast, the king again offered Esther anything she wanted, up to half the kingdom. And again Esther waited. "My wish and my request. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, let the king and Haman come to the feast that I will prepare for them. And tomorrow I will do as the king has said." Esther chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. 2 banquets, not one. She was creating space. She was threading the needle with surgical precision. But while Esther waited, Haman walked out of the palace and saw Mordecai at the king's gate. And Mordecai still would not bow. The fury that rose in him was volcanic. His wife and friends counseled him, "Build a gallows, 50 cubits high, and in the morning tell the king to have Mordecai hanged on it." Haman loved the idea. He had the gallows built. He was so certain. He did not know that the night was already turning against him. That night, the night before Haman planned to ask for Mordecai's death, the king could not sleep. Of all the nights, of all the kings, he called for the book of memorable deeds, the chronicles of his reign, to be read to him. And the reader, out of all the pages, out of years of recorded history, turned to the account of Mordecai uncovering the assassination plot, the plot that had saved the king's life. What honor or distinction has been bestowed on Mordecai for this? The king asked. Nothing has been done for him. At that moment, Haman arrived in the outer court. He had come early, before dawn, to ask the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows he had built. The king heard someone in the court and called out, "Who is in the court?" Haman entered. What should be done for the man whom the king delights to honor? Haman, in his arrogance, thought, "Who else could the king want to honor but me? For the man whom the king delights to honor, let royal robes be brought, and a horse that the king has ridden, and let the robes and the horse be handed to one of the king's most noble officials. Let them dress the man and lead him on the horse through the city square, proclaiming before him, 'Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor.'" Esther chapter 6, verses 7 through 9. The king's response was swift and absolute. "Hurry, take the robes and the horse, as you have said, and do so to Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave out nothing that you have mentioned." The man who built the gallows led his enemy through the streets of the city, crying out his honor before the crowd. And Haman went home in shock, head covered in grief, and told his wife and friends what had happened. And his wise men said, "If Mordecai is of Jewish origin, before whom your downfall has begun, you will not overcome him, but will surely fall before him." Esther chapter 6, verse 13. The ground was crumbling under Haman's feet. And then the king's eunuchs arrived to bring him to Esther's second banquet. God was silent. God was sovereign. God was everywhere. The king, Haman, and Esther reclined at the banquet table. And for the second time, the king asked, "What is your wish, Queen Esther?" "It shall be granted you." "What is your request?" "Even to the half of my kingdom, it shall be fulfilled." Esther chapter 7, verse 2. And this time, Esther was ready. "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be granted me for my wish, and my people for my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated." The king's eyes went dark. Who is he, and where is he, who has dared to do this? and Esther's finger pointed across the table like a blade. A foe and enemy, this wicked Haman. Esther chapter 7, verse 6. The room shattered. Haman turned white. The king, boiling with fury, stormed out into the garden. Haman, knowing he was finished, fell on the couch where Esther was reclining and begged for his life. When the king returned and saw Haman fall on Esther's couch, he cried, "Will he even assault the queen in my own house?" The words left the king's mouth. Servants covered Haman's face, the sign of a condemned man. One of the eunuchs spoke. Moreover, the gallows that Haman prepared for Mordecai, whose words saved the king, is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high. The king said, "Hang him on that." So they hanged Haman on the gallows he had built for Mordecai, and the wrath of the king subsided. Esther chapter 7, verse 10. The man who dug a pit for another fell into it himself. Proverbs had always said so. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 27. But the danger was not over. The edict to destroy the Jews could not simply be revoked. In Persian law, a royal decree sealed with the king's ring could not be repealed. So Esther came before the king again, falling at his feet, weeping. And the king extended the golden scepter. Write as you see fit regarding the Jews, in the name of the king, and seal it with the king's ring. Esther chapter 8, verse 8. A new edict was sent, with the speed of royal horses, to every province. The Jews were permitted to defend themselves, to stand for their lives, to destroy those who attacked them. And in every province and in every city, wherever the king's command and his edict reached, there was gladness and joy among the Jews, a feast and a holiday. Esther chapter 8, verse 17. Mordecai left the palace clothed in royal robes, blue and white, with a great golden crown and a purple robe of fine linen. And the city of Susa shouted and rejoiced. And so ends the story of Esther, the orphan girl who became a queen, the silent woman who found her voice, the exiled Jew who saved a nation. But the story is never really over. Because Esther is not just history, she is a mirror. The first lesson is this: God is present even when he is silent. The Book of Esther never mentions God, not once. And yet every coincidence, the king's insomnia, the page that opened to the right chronicle, the timing of Haman's arrival, the way Esther's request landed at exactly the right moment, every single thread was woven by an unseen hand. When you cannot feel God in your story, that does not mean he has left. It may mean he is working too quietly for your human senses to detect. His silence is not his absence. The second lesson: your position is always preparation. Esther did not seek the throne. She was brought to it. She did not plan to save her people. She was positioned to. Every exile, every loss, every door she walked through, even the terrifying ones, had been leading somewhere. What if your own life, with all its detours and disappointments, is building toward a moment you cannot yet see? The third lesson: courage is not the absence of fear. It is obedience in spite of it. If I perish, I perish. She was afraid. She acknowledged it. And she went anyway. That is not recklessness. That is faith. The bravest people in Scripture were not people without fear. They were people who feared God more than they feared the king. The fourth lesson: God raises up the lowly, an orphan, an exile, a woman with no legal voice in the most powerful empire on earth. And God used her, her beauty, her wisdom, her courage, her patience, to rewrite the history of a nation. The world always overlooks the Esthers. God never does. And here is the parallel you cannot ignore. Centuries after Esther walked into that throne room, another came who bore no crown by the world's standards. He also approached a throne, not to beg, but to intercede, not for one nation, but for every human being who had ever lived. Where Esther risked her life to stand before a king on behalf of her people, Jesus laid down his life to stand before the Father on behalf of all people. Where Esther said, "If I perish, I perish," Jesus said, "Not my will, but yours be done." Esther was a shadow. Jesus is the substance. And what he secured, through his own blood, his own death, his own resurrection, is not a temporary reprieve from a human enemy. It is eternal life in the presence of the King of all kings. So here's your challenge. Not a theoretical one, a real one. Is there a moment in your life right now? A conversation you have been avoiding, a stand you have not taken, a door you are afraid to walk through, where the question "who knows" might apply to you. Who knows whether you have come to this place, this season, this struggle, for such a time as this? Maybe your Mordecai is speaking. Maybe the scepter is already being extended. The question is, will you go? If this journey stirred your heart, follow the sacred mind. Share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe so these stories of faith and courage continue to reach the world. The crown was never the point. The people were always the point, and she knew it.